Hey guys, it's Dave. Today is my 8th sobriety birthday. Those are all consecutive days. 8 years in a row, months, weeks, days. It's a distinction worth making. I have some chores I want to do with you. You submitted some questions, and thank you so much. I wasn't sure anybody would care enough to ask me anything. I'm awfully new on the channel, on YouTube, I should say. So thank you. I'll answer those questions. When I was picking out plants to do chores on, my Lord, do I have plants to trellis. I'm going to make a separate video just on trellising. One of the planty questions I got is how I choose what to trellis, what to hang. I got a bunch of examples of that, but I mainly picked pretty easy projects today so that I can concentrate on talking. I started off with a different plant already, and it was so involved that I just had to finish that project, start the video over. I do want to get my elephant trellised because it is reputed to grow slowly, and it is sure not doing that in my house. So I want to get that one taken care of today, and plenty of other odds and ends. But let's get right on into it. First up, we can just tackle a really easy plant question, and that is, can I give an update of my Hoya Penny's treat? Why, yes, I can. You may have seen this as a much, much smaller plant. I bought this year in the winter, and it was a tiny little slip of a thing. I have also taken cuttings from this to share. So I would say, all in all, this is doing incredibly well. It's a beautiful plant. It's been a really good grower. I love all the Mike Bernardo hybrids I've seen. Haven't bloomed it yet. I am guessing next year. Penny's treat. All right, next up is a Hoya Nickelsoniae that I got in a trade from one of you people. Looking awfully good. And let's get a question going. First question. What is your plant collection like now, apart from the large Hoya collection? Do you have any other plant species that fascinates you or that you own? If you had to choose at the moment which plant is your favorite, which one turned out to be meh, and which one would you get rid of without remorse? I would get rid of any plant without remorse if it was not bringing me joy anymore, or if it was sick and I had kind of given it 1 or 2 or 3 college tries. I don't have the kind of emotional attachment to a plant that you'll never see me clutching my pearls on this channel. Oh, I need to downsize. I feel bad about it. Ain't gonna happen. If a plant is not giving me joy, I can find someone to take it that will enjoy it, and I can put in its spot, if it even needs to be filled, a plant that I do care about. I see no point in growing plants that I have no affection for. Just to fill up a shelf, that is not for me. My favorite plant, just for the wow factor, the staghorn fern. And, you know, it's a statement piece. Most people don't have one in a home environment that's as large as the one I'm growing. It's just an absolutely fantastic plant. And this looks terrific. I'm not surprised given how well the plant looks on its own. I'm going to do a little horseshoe trellis here while we talk. And other species, I assume that means genus as well. I mean, sure, I've got a variety of plants, but Hoya is, you know, probably, as you can tell, the primary one I grow. But I'm definitely going to look at growing orchids. Even though I'm in Iowa, I know somebody who grows orchids very, very well in this state. This state meaning furnace heat all winter, you know, winter challenges. We have not mild winters, we have absolutely positively brutal winters sometimes. So that's probably one that I would be looking into. But I kind of don't have that collector urge where I get into something and I have to own all of them, or just be a collector and buy and buy and buy. It's just something that slowly I would add to my collection and learn more about. The meh, I would say the vast majority of climbing philodendron were meh for me. Yeah, I got a bunch because everybody on YouTube had them, and I thought I would love them, and I don't for the most part. And certainly not given the real estate they take to grow them large. They don't mean enough to me to do that. And I think, did I answer all of those questions? I guess I did. There we go. Oh, let me get some clips. Heck yeah, it's gonna look great. I'm proud of myself here. I like to let the vines grow way off and have internodal spacing that's about this long before I decide to trellis. Usually end up trimming at that point. So I'm very, very far ahead of the game here. So we'll do that. When you clip your Hoya, this is for the beginners. I know there are some very, very experienced growers on this channel, but make sure that you're not smashing your vine. You know, try to find a space in the clip so that there's a little bit of room for it. You know, it's not going to get hugely fat, but you don't want to smash it. That looks fantastic. It's amazing what a simple little repot will do for a plant. I like that. This is a good trade. Next question is, can I show you how I water my staghorn fern? Yes, I can do that. I water it outside at this time of the year, and then I'll have it's enormous right now. If you saw the last video, it looks large in the video. It's larger. It truly is. It's the caught a fish thing, where you hold it way out in front of you. It's a very large plant. So I'm gonna have to figure out something a little bit different for the shower, you know, a hook that I'm gonna be able to water it on. But yeah, I can show you that. Also with the staghorn, someone asked when I mounted it to the washboard if I put anything between the wood and the staghorn fern, and I did put a bed of high quality sphagnum moss there. All right, for the next question, I am going to, this is a Mendorensis, which is a fantastic plant. This is one I grew up from a cutting. I am going to make some more cuttings of this and propagate it. These are pre-sterilized bonsai scissors, which y'all know I love. They are very, very sharp. They don't crush the vine and the cell material. And I typically do 1 node and 2 leaves, or 1 leaf, whichever's there. This leaf's obviously going to come out weird or die off, perhaps, who knows. But let me do this. I don't have any children. We don't have any children. It's our first marriage, me and Kathleen. Our wedding anniversary was yesterday. And next up, I want to get trellis. This is the Bat Cave, and some of you will have seen this a while back. I got this from my friend Crazy Plant Gal in Cedar Rapids, and whoops, got a little too close to the grow light there, but it has really grown well this summer. Question. Happy sobriety birthday. Was there a singular moment that happened to you that pushed you to make the change and choose sobriety? Did you go cold turkey or have some support groups? Any advice to those wanting to embark on their own sober journey? I'm sure a lot of people have heard of step one. Step one, admitting we were powerless over alcohol, is something that you've at least seen in movies or TVs. So that indicates no power of choice. Not the choice to not start drinking after you've sworn it off, and not the choice to stop drinking with any long-term success. So I got miracled one Sunday 8 years ago. Just making sure all the roots look good. This looks absolutely fantastic. So after many, many years of alcoholic drinking, meaning I'm someone when alcohol goes into my body, I I don't have the shut-off valve and no control over that. And I know how frustrating alcoholism looks to friends and families, co-workers, employers, because you would think that presented with a good enough reason, someone would quit drinking. And if someone is presented with a good enough reason and can quit drinking, that's not an alcoholic. That may be someone who's very seriously addicted to alcohol. They may have to have help quitting alcohol, but if they can make a decision and quit on their own, that's not an alcoholic. The alcoholic is going to have some sort of magical, spiritual help. And when I woke up one morning after a roughly 2-week blackout, I had a cut on my head. I had a Band-Aid the size of a playing card on. And just the very brief version is, it was a Sunday morning. I was at the kitchen table and no alcohol. I contemplated just how would I get it into the house. It was too early to go to the liquor store because it was closed. If I went to a grocery store, how could I sneak it back in? And that was the moment. A perspective that everyone else had on me was that I could not quit this thing and that it was never going to get better. It was just clearly going to continue to get worse. And when I say it was already bad, I mean I was a very late stage alcoholic. So that's the morning that as soon as I saw my wife, before I could take it back later, change my mind, I often describe it as unringing the bell. I said, I cannot quit drinking. I need help. And I'm going to seek that tonight. And that's what I did. And I never took another drink. If someone finds themselves in that position and they're lucky enough to find themselves among other alcoholics who have stayed sober successfully and are sane, because there's a program to do that, I would take those reins in both hands and not let go. I have never taken it for granted. I'm not someone who went to get help and thought, well, it's always here for me. I just assumed if I ever left, I would eventually die. Or worse. I mean, there are worse things. I could get in a car and drive down the wrong one way. That happens all the time. So I've always taken it seriously. I've always appreciated what I have been given, and what a miracle it is for someone who was like me to live a life that I live now, being useful to other human beings and not being solely focused on what I need 24 hours a day. 23 and a half hours a day is enough for me to worry about myself, but I do try to carve out a little time every day to worry about other people. Was there another part on this? Cold turkey. Yeah, it was probably unwise for me not to have medical assistance after all the years I drank daily, but that's how I did it. And I suffered no ill consequences for that. And let me grab a trellis. So the idea that it was kind of my decision to quit drinking, I sort of reject. I don't have that power to just simply make a decision. But anyway, that's my perspective on it. If you had seen me right up the day before I never took another drink, you never in a million years would have thought, well, there's a guy who's just this close to quitting drinking. You would have thought, here's a guy who's just this close to dying. As I said, a few people seek help and take it very, very seriously and take the suggestions that are written out for them to live a really good and useful life with long-term sobriety. And I am forever grateful to have run across them. It took me a while because, you start hanging around sober people, nothing they say makes any sense at all. I couldn't understand anything. One, I didn't understand why everybody wasn't just talking about me, which is weird, but they weren't. But they passed on some things that were extremely helpful, like it will get easier, it will get infinitely better, unimaginably better. But I began to notice that there were people coming around, sharing their experience, strength, and hope with people like me. And that was pretty clearly what they were doing there, day after day after day. They weren't hanging around a bunch of alcoholics to complain about their boss or their significant other or their day in general. They were there to help people like me. And I latched onto those people that had just that content and calm demeanor, just some sort of inner peace that I most certainly did not have and never had. You know, I was who I was way before I ever put alcohol into this body. And at the end, this body was nothing but a vessel to compulsively pour alcohol into. So it's a good deal. It's a good deal. And a lot of people come around and they don't want to take suggestions and they don't want to do what people like I had to do to get here. And invariably they drink. And they're welcome to come back. Now some don't drink and they stay miserable. I don't want that either. That doesn't sound like fun. You know, we're here for such a short time. Let's have some fun. Let's be kind to each other. I think the biggest surprise for me in sobriety, you know, based on what you do see on TV and movies, and, you know, you've got the recovering alcoholic that's staring down a shot of beam because whatever reason, basically that life is going to be, you know, 1 foot on the grave, 1 foot on a banana peel. The idea that my obsession to drink could ever be lifted was beyond my, well, it was beyond my conception. I just, you know, no. But that my life would become to being here for other people and that would make me happy and content, that was even more far-fetched. That is how it's turned out, though. Recommend it to anybody who's got a problem with drinking. The most powerful words I've ever spoken were, well, it was one word: help. Help. I got it. All right, I have gathered up our next plant. This is my big boy elephant, AH027, is that right? I'll put it on the screen, of course. And last we saw this, summer's end, it had a vine, and I said it might put out some leaves, might not, I wasn't sure, and by golly, it has. This is the brand new leaves here. It's got one right here that it's gonna try to put out, and then it's got a really kind of a long vine here with a couple of nodes. It's done well. This is clearly going to be a huge plant. I don't know if you've seen April Malls from Unsolicited Plant Talks. She's got a huge one. I think a bamboo trellis is going to make the most sense for this one. And then as it grows, maybe two, and we'll just have to see. I'm not dying to take it out of the pot it's in right now because I think it's fine, but I also need to get it trellised. So this is one of those situations when I was talking in the last repot is you don't always get perfect today. You know, you have to look at perfect in 6 months or a year, you know, at some point down the line. This plant is just going to keep growing up, and the internodal spacing is just going to keep getting longer in between those nodes, which I don't want. It's already a little bit too long. But I'll wrap it up and see how we look. Another sobriety question, since that's today. Can you tell us 3 things you miss about drinking? Oh, that'll be easy. And 3 of the benefits you've found from being sober. I don't miss anything about being drinking. I had drunk myself out of any relief, pleasure, normalcy. I was so far beyond and so deeply into alcoholism that I don't miss any of that. I am afforded a life now that I simply couldn't have imagined. And you know, one of those things is I've worked from home for a long time now. I spend a lot of time alone. You know, I don't sit in a room just loathing myself, you know, wanting to be able to stop what I'm doing and not being able to do it. And that feeds a really ugly cycle, because the only thing that really treats those symptoms are alcohol. And it's a really ugly thing, you know. And we are such thieves as a group, alcoholics. And I don't mean you have to steal someone's material possessions, but we steal people's time and affection and love. And, you know, they're not getting that back from us, not in any real way. So to have that back and to have a sense of decency and live up to my morals, that's a big deal. That's why I don't tolerate any negativity in comments. That's why I think that we should all be a little bit nicer to each other in general. But I have no control over that, but I have a little control over that in my own small corner of the world. Whereas before, I could not control all the resentment I felt for everybody. You know, just so typical of people like me. I hadn't achieved what I wanted to achieve because, well, just everybody else had it a little bit easier than I did. Boo-hoo. Then I sobered up and I started achieving some things that other people, you know, achieve. And you know what? Spoiler alert, they worked hard for it, just like everybody else. Not many people are just handed everything on a silver platter. Most of us have to work really, really hard for the things that we want in life. And there was no special dispensation just because I had sobered up. That's for sure. And I am barely going to disturb this root ball if I can help it. I do just want to make sure everything looks good. I want to make sure there aren't any unwanted visitors in here. Everything looks fantastic, so I will add this in. Just put a little there in the bottom. And you regular folks will know I'm using my normal mix. If you're new here, what a video you picked to be new here. I have all of the ingredients I use linked in the description, my Amazon links. It's a very, very simple substrate that I've had terrific success with. So this, while I'm going up in pot size, kind of a lot, the other pot was really drying out pretty quickly, so I'm comfortable doing that. I mean, this is quite a lot of foliage on this, and I'm gonna have to, excuse me for one moment. Sorry about that. I had to fill my bowl up a little bit. I ended up taking just a little bit extra out of the pot. It was sitting a little bit too high. And now I'll just fill in pretty chunky along the sides here. So I'm not too worried about going to this larger pot size. If I had gone to this larger pot size and I was using a much denser mix, you know, that might concern me a little bit, but not with what I use. That's kind of it. There are variations on that theme of sobriety, but that's basically it. I went from someone who was absolutely possessed by alcohol to what you see here, for better or worse. Oh gosh. Some of us think it's for better. Others could probably do without me. I don't know. One question I had regarding plants was to talk about the differences in the pots I use. So in a very young plant, I always use like a prop, a new prop, or if I'm moving those little shot glass plastic cups I have, if I'm moving a small plant from there, I will put it in a 4-inch plastic. From there, I will almost always move it to either terracotta or, more likely going forward, more and more and more basalt, which is what this pot is. I'll lift it after I put the trellis in it. This is basalt. I get these either used, Flowerama sells them, and we have a local nursery that sells them. After the pandemic, they got unbelievably expensive. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to use them anymore. And then they've come down in price to the point where a 6-inch pot's only $1 more than a regular terracotta. Now, and then there are the white ones. The advantage, let me back up, of both of these is that it's somewhere between like a glazed ceramic and terracotta. The gray one will seep a little bit more water out, It will suck a little more water out of the substrate than this white one. This white one, while it doesn't act, you know, like glaze, obviously, it's much closer. For me, this is the easiest way to keep my roots healthy. We have a very cool house in the winter. It's a long winter. When I started doing this and when I started adding grow lights, my root rot problems and plants dying like crazy over the winter pretty much ended. I will lose a plant or two over the winter. It seems inevitable, but this has helped a lot. So when I move to 6-inch planters, from now on, I want to put it in basalt, either the white or the gray. So there's the difference there. Don't mind me, we're fine. We're just fine here. And I will scoot this in here. I guess I could have seen if I could go, I still can, in between leaves, if that would make sense. There's a chandelier right above me. Something like this maybe would work better. It's all gonna be, where does this want to go? I think that's gonna work pretty well. This is a leaf just coming out, so I'm gonna be very careful not to damage it. There is a leaf right here at my palm, so I'm gonna make sure that doesn't get pinned next to the bamboo or in any way crimped into it. That's not the word, right? I'm not sure what the word is, but I don't want to damage it is the shorthand version of that. And I can go ahead and, I'm gonna pin it here. I always say pin it, it's a clip, of course. I'm gonna use, instead of these orchid clips, I'm going to use the dragonfly because they're wider, and so it's gonna put less pressure on this plant. So that's what I'm gonna do there. And I'm gonna put one more up where you probably can't see it. This is gonna, I mean, when this plant grows up, are you kidding me? I mean, this is gonna be a true Hoya statement piece. I'm very excited about this. Gee, I wonder why. So that's fantastic. That's looking just great. Okay, stop complimenting yourself, Dave. Let's get some more work done. My wife, her name is Kathleen. And no, you probably won't see her on the channel. I had her talked into helping me with a repot way early in the spring. And you know, it's not even that she's camera shy because she has a very public job and she's on the camera all the time. I think she would just prefer that this be for me and just stay out of it. So, there's that. Yes, she loves plants. She does not collect them and she does not take care of any of them. I take care of all of our plants. I would get fussy if she would help. I would not like that at all. I have my care dialed in, and I don't need anybody interfering with that, no matter how much I love her. Any tips for a long-term marriage? For those of you who don't know, Kathleen and I are on our first marriage currently. I've done what I can to not have that happen, but yeah. And how did we meet? No tips for a long-term marriage. All I can say that for us, I would guess that 90% of our marriage is trying to make each other laugh. That's no joke. We spend an awful lot of time trying to one-up each other, and we are very kind to each other. So I don't know beyond that. And I met her at her work. I used to meet a friend where she works for lunch, and I was really, really taken with her. And I just hung around and made awkward conversation for like a long time, like for a year, until I finally just bravely stepped up and I just basically let her ask me out on a date. That's how it happened. That's where it started. And what a love affair. She's really truly better than any person I've ever met. So to say that I married up is kind of an understatement. Did I tell you that this is Hoya Ricardo? I got this from Crazy Plant Gal too. I bent her arm to let me buy this because she couldn't find the cutting. She eventually did that she had, but it's one that I really wanted for quite a while, and she was kind enough to let me have it. So this one needs a trellis too. Right now we are looking at this new leaf. I hope I didn't underwater this new leaf and it's going to come in funky. It feels like it's hardening off, but these take quite a long time to inflate, if you will. So we'll see. There's hope. There's also a node here, a node here, a node here, and then the growth tip. So perfect timing to get this on a trellis. Perfect timing might have been actually, a while ago, but like I said, I have so many that need to go on a trellis. We'll do that video together. I should probably make another how to make a trellis video that's shorter than the one I originally made. That's my most viewed video, and people only watch about a third of it because that's the making the trellis part, and they don't want to see how to put plants on it and wrap it and do all that baloney. Or if they do, they want a shorter version of it because they sure don't watch all that. What brought me to my love of Hoya, and where did I go to learn? Did I already answer where did I go to learn? Or did I just think about it in my head? Well, that's what editing's for. I came to it, I'm not really sure. I was turned off by the inner variegated, outer variegated Hoya that everyone calls Princess and Queen, even though there are many, many different types of inner and outer variegated Hoya. Those are trade names. Very successful trade names because they have stuck. But when I started seeing some of the more unusual ones and flowers and stuff, I guess maybe that is when I got into them. Owned a few. I don't know. Something sparked my interest for sure. I can't say there was a, moment. Like I can look at Sobriety and I know the exact moment. I know the time of day on Sunday. It was 7 a.m. on that Sunday. Where I went to learn was where everybody else goes to learn. I didn't know about Miro back then, or if you had a channel, I'm not even sure. Listen, I know how this is going to sound, okay? But if you want an anodyne plant channel, there are hundreds. This isn't one of them. It was very clear to me the people talking about Hoya had no idea what they were talking about. They were giving expert tips on plants they had not grown. They had no experience actually growing the plants they were giving their expert tips on. So I learned on my own. I took the knowledge of looking at plants with very thin root systems and very thin leaves, assuming they would need more water, and that these thicker ones could withstand a little less water, more robust root systems like the Obscura and so forth. I killed a lot of plants in the beginning, because what I then considered chunky substrate is nothing like what I consider a chunky substrate now. And you know, the first winter I had them, it was a massacre because they stayed wet for forever. So like I already said, that was a big change for me, you know. And then the next year, just whenever, I added lights a few years ago. I mean, that truly did change everything. And then I got the tent, and guess what? For my sobriety birthday, I bought myself a gimbal. And if you don't know what a gimbal is, it stabilizes the camera when you move it around. And I bought that specifically to do B-roll footage so you can get better images of the plants, and to do the tent video, etc. and so forth. So I will definitely be shooting that one. I'm going to grab a trellis for this one. I'll be right back. What I have to decide while I'm doing this is, there is the petiole is right here. I want to see if this trellis, if the tines of this are long enough to hit the bottom without decapitating that petiole. So I'm going to be very, very careful. Because alternatively, I have to try to fold it and put it within the cage without damaging it, which can be quite tricky. I think this is going to be, let me see if I can fold this leaf. There's no way I can fold that leaf, so this is going to have to work. And I think it's okay. I'm going to put some more, as I come to the top of this, as I add more and more, I will make it chunkier so that it's not sitting in just, you know, a bunch of coco coir that's going to take a long time to dry out. So I know that's not a satisfying answer to how I learned about Hoya, but I think it's a good way, you know, when it's clear to me that advice is just it's just retreads. It's just, this is what I heard from somebody else who heard from somebody else who heard from somebody else who heard. You know, if I can't find a source that can verify they can grow plants well, like you can look at Miro's plants and decide if that's how you would like to grow plants. Now, a follow-up on that question, or from someone else, was how I got involved in my plant community here. I am not involved in any plant community. I have a dear friend who, crazy plant gal, her name's Kim, who lives about 25 miles from here. She's a massive Hoya grower. She doesn't just grow Hoya, but I don't care about anything else she grows, come on. She did sell me my Kujong's flame, so I shouldn't say that. That's a beauty. And then I have friends that I've met from YouTube. Someone who lives in a town across the state. You have seen many, many of the plants she has sent me, gifted me to support the channel. This Friday, I'm going to get a Argentea Princess and a inner variegated carrii, I think. Inner, outer, I don't know. Just a very kind person. It brings her joy to share plants with me, and she likes to support the channel. You know, you'll be seeing those on here probably quite soon. And let's get this pinned up. Let's look at another question. I got a lot of questions about winter, and while I do think there's some good information on winter, I probably have something at least to contribute to that. I am doing that video in the immediate future. That's not just talk. That's not like I'm going to do a glow up of my plant room that I never did. That's one I'm definitely, absolutely, positively going to do. Where do I buy my hats? Well, it's just one hat. In my first year of sobriety, just shy of my first year of sobriety, it was more than a little shy, but it was summer and, you know, I don't have a ton of hair. I needed a hat and I decided to buy an adult hat. So I bought this a little under 8 years ago. Here's a good one. Invisibility or flight? Don't think about it too hard, but your answer will reverberate across the internet for all time. It's got to be flight, right? One, it sounds more fun, and two, it seems less likely to corrupt me than invisibility. I mean, I live in this really, really beautiful historic neighborhood, and I love to spy on all my neighbors, but I'm like out on the sidewalk and people can see me admiring their homes, you know. I don't think I'd want to be invisible. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm bending this vine counterclockwise. That was another question I got. I have heard of people saying they wrap their plants clockwise and they do fine. They grow that way. I've never once had a plant. I have started them going the wrong direction, because Hoya, in my experience, Hoya go counterclockwise under every circumstance I've ever had any of my hundreds of Hoyas do, whatever. If I start them the other direction, because like I've got a latifolia upstairs and they're going in two different directions, very stiff vines. It's been my experience that if I start this one in the direction it wants to go, it will course correct and start growing the other direction. I'm not doubting other people's experience. If that's been your experience, that it will grow in either direction, more power. It hasn't been mine. So I just start out with what I assume is going to be the correct direction for my plant. From the same viewer, and this is another friend that I met through YouTube who lives in Arizona. Also, what song gives you the tingles whenever you hear it? Tom Waits' Falling Down, every time. And what gives you the right to just keep on being awesome all of the time? Yeah, well, let's get my wife in on that question. How good does that look? Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, that's going to be a good one. Actually, I should bring that back out now that I've got it properly wrapped, so that if it wants to grow, it can grow outside of the cage. A lot of you will know that I work at my friend's nursery sometimes, and I'm gifted plants for doing that. And one of them that I recently got was a huge KSB01. It's ginormous. It's a plant that I really, really love. A lot of you will have seen it on my channel 2 or 3 times. I've got some upstairs. The one I have is under really quite high light. It keeps this rather limey green under any lighting conditions, but this rim will get much more enhanced. Just absolutely lovely. I love this plant. I'm going to repot that. How many of you, and again, there are a lot of very experienced growers on this channel, I know. You have never seen me on Hoya ID trying to identify plants, because I'm not that good at it. Don't cheat. Pause after you see this and put in the comments what you think this is. Don't cheat. Don't be me. Does it look familiar? I sure thought that I knew what this was, but I was wrong. I, of course, will put on the screen what this is. I'll tell you, because we're going to repot that real quick. And then one that I had to pinky swear that I would sell her back, give her back a cutting of this when it grows, is this one right here. You know, I don't really keep a wish list. I've wanted a Ricardo for a long time. This plant is a wish list plant. This is the AH Black Magic. And as Kim, Crazy Plant Gal, pointed out, it's not black. Well, you know, with enough light, it gets very dark red maroon. To which she rightly said, is not black. Fine. So I want to pot this up. I've been saving this now for a while. It feels like the roots are going to be, well, non-existent. So let's find out, which happens. I mean, that's why, you know, I know a lot of you will have heard this from me a whole bunch of times. This I did not pot up. It's in a substrate that is completely foreign to me. It retains so much more water than mine does, and I no doubt rotted all of these roots out because it just was not drying out. And I wanted to save it to show, you know, the one treat I paid for this one that I got myself for a sobriety birthday, and it was early, so it's been sitting in that substrate for quite a while. So let's see how we're looking, and that looks really good. So you want to see something like that? I know that some people can worry if you cut a really woody stem like this and it's not bleeding profusely like further up the plant, that it's not viable. And as long as you're getting healthy stem and you're getting some live tissue in there, you can almost, I mean, you can never say 100% on anything, but very likely you're going to be able to root it. And I have no concerns about this one at all, other than the concern that I left it in here way too long. I feel good that I got to bring in the fact that I like to repot everything always right away, and have an example of me not doing it the way I usually doing it and paying the price. I don't do it to be a contrarian. I do it because that has proven to me to be as close to a fail-safe as there is. So I'm going to put a couple of clips in here, which will hold a whole lot better once that gets watered through. The next question up is, you know, a tough one to probably net it out. I mean, I will. But it's regarding my long COVID. What are your long COVID issues you deal with, and how are you dealing with them? As someone with several chronic illnesses diagnosed before COVID, I am curious to see how people are treating and dealing with them. How many total plants do you have now? Will you do a full collection tour? Backwards, collection tour, probably not. I know they get clicks when people do them. I find them incredibly boring. And if I find them boring, I don't know how I would make it exciting for you. So I think I'll just keep bringing plants out, or sitting in a room with a lot of plants or something like that, but I doubt it. How many plants do I have? I have no idea. A lot, quite a few. Obviously. I'm not trying to be glib. Honestly, I have no idea. And so long COVID. Oh, long COVID. Let's try the KSBO one here. Apparently I have the worst case of brain fog that at least this medical facility has treated. I've come a long way. There was a period of time where I couldn't properly hold conversations. I couldn't process words. I could not remember my friends' names. And I don't mean sitting back and trying to remember your high school friends' names. I mean people I see all the time. It was very scary. It was a very frightening period of time. I've gotten that back. My memory lapses are still quite profound. It's very frustrating, and it's quite challenging. As I get tired, I mean, you've seen me on the channel. I use the wrong word, and I get lost in a thought. I can't get back to it, and you know, that's okay. I mean, the alternative was just not do this at all. You know, coping strategies, you know, just knowing that I'm at my very best the minute I wake up, the minute I open my eyes, and I have to realize that if there are 6 things that I want to do in a day, you know, I need to pick 2, and that's going to be realistic. If I push it, I push it knowing that I'm going to make myself sick for a few days. And is it going to be worth it? Is it a project that really does have to be seen through, you know, from beginning to end? If it can be stopped, sometimes I do that. If I feel like I won't be, if I'm in for a penny, in for a pound, if I already know I'm not going to feel well, I will carry through on certain things. to get it done, because I can't be certain of when I'll pick it back up, if that makes sense. And I'm stubborn as a mule. Once I start on something, it's hard to get me to stop, that's for sure. So those are the coping strategies there. I still have not been able to read for comprehension. I hope that comes back. That was a huge part of my life. Literature, big part of my wife's career. So that's been frustrating for sure. I got asked about other hobbies that I've had, and my biggest passion is classical music, and for quite a long time I played classical music, but I couldn't follow it. It was just like elevator music. I just couldn't. That's back to a large degree. Not quite the intense concentration I used to have, but I'd still take great enjoyment out of it. That's getting better. In some ways, the toughest part of COVID has been, I'll be a little careful how I phrase it, but friendships. Trying to explain what it's like to live like this now and know that you're just not getting through. If I could go back in time and articulate how I feel now, I would have done a few things differently with people. I mean, there was a period of time where with certain people, they felt like they were my doctor or they're my researcher, and every topic of conversation was whatever research they found online. You know, oh, they've got it figured out. Oh, they've got this figured out. Oh, they've got that figured out. Oh, yep, it's this time. And then the next time I see it, that person, it's this other thing. And not like, how am I doing? You know, how am I doing living with this and with something that altered my life? I couldn't have even imagined how much this would have changed my life. That's for sure. Thank God I was sober, you know, and pretty quickly realized that I needed to stop focusing on what I could no longer do and be focused on what I could do now. That's a life saver right there, for sure. But it is frustrating to try to explain this to people, and people can only know about you what they can know. You know, if they haven't experienced, they can be sympathetic, but certainly not empathetic. But, you know, I had a long conversation, like an honest one, like someone you would share, like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. That's how I started out, how I was doing. You know, it's just, at that time, it just really felt like it was killing me. And I didn't have, certainly, the language skills I have now. Man, he listened for a little while, and then he said, brightly, what else is new? I was just like, hey, you know. And anyway, I would have just gone back in time and just shut down all of the, you're not my doctor, you're not my researcher, you're my friend. And you have to respect me when I say, these are things I can't do anymore. When I tell you I can't speak on the phone anymore because I can't follow the conversation, you have to respect that. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how long it took me to get some people just to stop calling me. Just text me. Just text. So that was frustrating. You know, where do you draw the line? How do you do it? You know, like a lot of illnesses, this is invisible. And not everybody believes in it. Somebody left a snarky comment when I asked for questions and I mentioned, you know, marriage, plants, alcoholism, COVID, and they said about the planned-demic, no thanks. I don't curse on my channel, but you can take that shit somewhere else, period. That's an incredibly insensitive thing to say. And so I would say to anybody who knows somebody with a chronic illness, show them some love. It ain't easy. I've got it easy. I'm married, you know, we're fed. The lights are on, obviously. But personal relationships have been a challenge, you know, in terms of coping with that. Just having to tell people, this is what I need, this is what I can provide, this is the limit, you know. And you just have to trust you have friends, good enough friends that can listen to that. And if they can't, they can't. How do I feel about Ethereums? Not strongly, not at all. I'm not on the Ethereum train. I see a lot of people buying a lot of anthurium. It's haul after haul after haul after haul after haul. A lot of them look very similar to me. I'm sure just like when people look at a lot of Hoya, they look very similar. I'm sure it'll come to me when the fever has broken. You know, I'll get interested in anthurium after the fact. I always come to the party late. I don't know why. Do you know what it is? It's a cinemifolia. Kind of nice, huh? And I'm going to repot it, and will I chop it or will I just stake it? Let's find out. Let's see how those roots look after the first one we looked at. Certainly very firmly in here. I knew that first one that we did, the AH Magic, I knew I was making a mistake leaving it in there. I knew when I brought it home after I'd had it for several days and it was still wet that there was a problem. But live and learn? No, that's not for me. That's for you. I just keep making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. Lord, oh, we do try to get better. So I think in the next video we are going to, well, the next video is going to be the tent video, because I'm going to want to play with my gimbal, clean that tent out and so forth. And then we'll do some trellising and water that staghorn. See if I can find some other interesting chores. These roots look absolutely fantastic. It's thirsty. I am going to put you on pause while I figure this out. Think I'm going to put it in a more permanent pot like I would usually grow in, and maybe a ladder trellis. Let's see how much room that would give me. It would be at the top of the trellis, which I don't like to do because to me, I don't like small trellises because we're already up there. This is not going to wrap around the trellis very clearly, this one. Yeah, I don't get the using a really small trellis on a Hoya that's going to grow quite aggressively and you're just at the top and then you're already turning it down in a direction it doesn't want to go, so you have to let the vine grow way off so that you can loop it, and then there's enough of a growth tip that's coming back up that it can orient itself the way it wants to. In other words, if you pin a growth tip down, it's going to feel like it's being forced to grow away from the light. That's no value to the plant, and it'll get rid of that growth tip. You might kill a growth tip, you know, repotting or moving the plant around and this and that. It happens all the time. But if you pin it down and there's no natural curve of that growth tip, you are definitely going to kill it, no question. I say that and 3 people are going to say they pin them down all the time and they grow fine, which I love. I love dissenting opinions. Not the pandemic, not the COVID one. Take that somewhere else. But people who grow differently or don't agree with me or have had very different results, y'all are so civil. You can just say my experience has been this other thing and I had great results doing it in a way that doesn't work for you. That's how it's supposed to be. This channel is not supposed to be model after me. This channel is supposed to be find out for yourself. Don't take the word of people like me. Experiment. See what happens. I am getting tired. I probably better wrap it up. I'm going to just take one quick look at that list, see if I'm missing anything important. But let's take a quick look. Just a quick look. Don't click off. This could be the one. This could be one that you really need. Any tips for Phalaenopsis, orchids? No, I have one. I'm in no position to give anybody tips, but I did ask how long I soak it for, and I soak it for 30 minutes. I have a friend who grows orchids up here in Iowa like crazy. I will lean on her when I get more into orchids. And then of course there's Miss Orchid Girl with well over 500,000 subscribers. She's got tons of information and lots of congratulations. Thank you so much. So many of you sent me congratulations on my sobriety. I truly don't have a lot to do with it, but thank you very, very much. And, oh, what did I do before YouTube? I spent many, many years in sales at different levels. Then after I sobered up, after about 6 or 8 months of being sober, a company had just enough of me and let me go, which was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was able to focus on just staying sober, which in the beginning is all anyone can do. And then I got a job at a research job at the university. I was there for something like 3 years, and then I got a job in orthopedics at the university. You know, the people at the front desk who make appointments for you at a massive hospital like we have here and research facility. There are people outside of the hospital here in my home, in the plant room, that do initial triage, schedule as surgeons, or decide if it's a PA, that kind of stuff. And that's what I did until I got COVID and kind of lost my ability to do that. So, Cinemafolia, I will pin that up. I'm going to thank you for joining me on this Q&A. I hope it was some fun for you. It wasn't exactly organized. I just took the questions as they were there, sort of grouped like I said, but I had fun answering them. Damn, it's good to be sober. Good to be able to do something like this on a beautiful Tuesday, Iowa afternoon. I will see you in the next one real soon, okay? Bye-bye.